There's a kind of silence that doesn't bring peace. It creeps in late at night when the world is quiet but your mind isn't. You lie awake, not because something has happened, but because something might. That's fear. That's anxiety. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's the soft background hum of what if? What if I fail? What if I can't handle it? What if everything falls apart? You've felt it. I have too. No matter how strong we seem on the outside, fear finds a way in. But here's the twist no one tells you. Fear doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means pay attention. Sometimes it means you're standing right at the edge of something meaningful. I want to share with you 5 powerful practices, not from self-help books, but from the minds of ancient Stoic philosophers, people who faced wars, exile, death, yet still lived with clarity, calm, and strength. These aren't just ideas, they're tools. And if you're willing to try them, they might just change your relationship with fear permanently. This isn't about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about understanding it, using it, and slowly learning to stand beside it, not beneath it. If you've been looking for a way forward, not around your fear but through it, you're in the right place. Let's begin. There's a strange kind of power in asking yourself, what's the worst that could happen? It sounds like something people say to calm themselves down, but for the Stoics, especially Seneca, it was much more than that. It was a tool, a way to disarm fear before it ever got the chance to take control. Most of us carry unspoken fears. They live just below the surface of our lives, a vague dread of losing something, messing up, being judged, failing. And the truth is, we often don't examine those fears because we're afraid of what we might find. But Seneca flipped that instinct on its head. He believed that to weaken fear, you have to walk straight into it, on purpose. He called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evil. Not in a dark, cynical way, but as a kind of rehearsal, not for suffering, but for resilience. Here's what happens when you actually sit down and imagine the worst-case scenario in vivid detail. Your mind stops running wild. Instead of vague panic, you start seeing specific events. And specificity brings clarity. When I was about to leave my job, the one with the health insurance, the retirement plan, the predictable routine, I was scared out of my mind. Not because I hated my job, but because stepping into the unknown felt like tearing off a part of my identity. What if I fail? What if I can't pay rent? What if I have to go crawling back? Those questions haunted me, until one night I sat down and actually answered them. I pictured the very worst, losing all my savings, having to move back in with family, taking side jobs I didn't love just to get by. And then something shifted. Because once I saw that version of reality, I realized I could survive it, maybe even rebuild from it. It didn't make the fear vanish, but it made it bearable. And most importantly, it made it honest. You see, fear thrives on the unknown. But once you bring your fear into the light, it loses its power to paralyze you. Ask yourself right now, what is the thing you're most afraid of? And if it actually happened, what would that look like? How would you handle it? Who would be there for you? What would remain, even if everything else changed? You'll probably find this. You're far more equipped than you think. You have skills, memories, relationships, experience. You have strength you haven't met yet. And maybe, just maybe, that worst-case scenario you've been running from isn't as bad as the one your imagination painted. Seneca's practice isn't about pessimism, it's about freedom. Because once you've accepted the worst, you're no longer negotiating with fear. You're free to act, not from panic, but from purpose. It's not about being reckless. It's about being clear. You stop avoiding risk because of vague anxieties, and you start making decisions from a grounded, honest place. So tonight, when the fear whispers, "What if it all goes wrong?" Don't shut it out. Sit with it. Invite it in. Let it speak. And then ask, if that happened, what would I do next? You might be surprised at how peaceful the answer feels. Sometimes, the thing that makes fear feel so heavy is the feeling that we're not in control. You're trying to hold it all together. Career, family, health, finances. And just when you think you've got a grip, something slips. A sudden email, a comment from someone, a curveball you never saw coming, and now your mind spirals. It's not just the event itself, it's the endless what-ifs that follow. What if they don't like me? What if the market crashes? What if I lose everything I've built? It's chaos. And it feels like you're powerless in the middle of it. But what if I told you, you've been giving away your power, not intentionally, but in the way we all do, by focusing on the wrong things. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, gave us a key, a simple, powerful insight. There are things within our control and things outside our control. That's it. But it's everything. When you actually sit down and draw that line, what's mine, what's not, you stop fighting the ocean. You start steering your own ship. Years ago, I was going through a career transition. I was excited, but also overwhelmed. I couldn't control the job market. I couldn't control who responded to my emails. I couldn't control the economy, the timing, the noise. I started to drown in all of it, until I remembered Epictetus. So I sat down, made 2 columns. One for what I could control, one for what I couldn't. It was humbling and freeing. What could I control? My work ethic, my attitude, my sleep, my routines, the way I showed up. I could sharpen my skills. I could be kind to others. I could choose how I reacted when things didn't go as planned. That's where I focused. And with that focus came peace. We often think we need more control, but the truth is, we need better control over less. You can't stop the storm, but you can learn how to stand in it. Try this. Next time you're overwhelmed, take out a notebook. Make your 2 columns. What's in my hands? What isn't? Be honest. You can't control how others think. You can't control the future. You can't control what happened yesterday. But you can control how you speak today. You can control what you read, how you treat people, the energy you bring into a room. That's not nothing. That's everything. Because once you stop pouring energy into what you can't influence, you free up your power to actually make a difference, where it counts. It's not ignoring reality. It's refusing to drown in it. We waste so much life trying to push walls that won't move. And forget we could have built something instead. Epictetus was born into slavery. He lost everything people think matters: freedom, wealth, status. But no one could take away his mindset. And from that place, he became one of the wisest voices in history. Control is not about domination. It's about direction. And when fear rises and everything feels uncertain, your clarity begins with a single question. What can I control right now? We live in a world that worships comfort. Warm beds, perfect temperatures, instant gratification. And for the most part, there's nothing wrong with that. Comfort feels good. But here's the problem. It doesn't prepare you for life. Because life doesn't care if you're comfortable. It doesn't ask permission before it breaks the routine. It shows up with loss, change, disappointment, unannounced. And if all you've ever known is comfort, you won't know how to stand when the ground shakes. The Stoics knew this. They didn't chase suffering, but they trained for it, on purpose. They called it voluntary discomfort, a radical idea even now. What if, instead of avoiding discomfort, we welcomed a little into our lives? The goal isn't pain. The goal is preparation. When I first tried this, it wasn't dramatic. I started with cold showers, the kind that shocks your system the second it hits your skin. Everything in me screamed, "Get out!" But I stayed. Not to prove anything, not to punish myself, but to practice breathing through discomfort. To remind myself that I can stay calm, even when things aren't easy. And over time, something shifted. Not just in my body, but in my mind. I felt stronger, not just after the shower, but during tough conversations, during unexpected stress, during the moments when life said, "Not today," because that's the point. Voluntary discomfort builds internal capacity. It reminds you that you're not fragile, you're adaptable. The Stoics believed in practicing poverty too, once in a while, eating plain food, wearing rough clothes, sleeping on the floor, just to ask themselves, is this what I was so afraid of? Usually the answer was no. These small experiments rewired their relationship to fear, and it still works today. You don't have to go extreme. You can start small, skip a meal, walk instead of drive, put your phone away for a day, say no to something easy, choose effort over escape, just once, and then watch what happens inside you. You'll feel it, not instantly, but steadily. A quiet resilience beginning to rise. You'll stop panicking at the first sign of discomfort, because part of you now remembers, I've been here before, and I made it through. Modern life tells us discomfort is a problem. The Stoics tell us it's a teacher. It teaches patience, discipline, clarity, endurance, and those are the traits that carry you through storms, not just success. There's another benefit people rarely talk about: gratitude. When you go without, even briefly, you return to your comforts with appreciation, not dependency. You stop taking simple things for granted. You stop expecting life to always cooperate. And when life doesn't cooperate, which it won't, you're not caught off guard. You're steady, because you've trained for this. One of the most powerful things I did was intermittent fasting. Not for weight, not for trends, but for mindset. Sitting with hunger taught me how much of my discomfort is in my head, and how quickly I try to fix every uneasy feeling with food, entertainment, or distraction. But when I just sat with it, something opened up. A kind of quiet strength. A sense that I don't need everything to be perfect in order to feel okay. That's what voluntary discomfort is really about. Not denial, not masochism, but freedom. The freedom to say, I don't fear this anymore. I can do hard things. I don't have to run every time something feels unfamiliar. The world isn't always soft, but you can become solid. And sometimes, all it takes is choosing discomfort. Just a little, just enough, before life forces it on you. Sometimes the most powerful evidence that you'll make it through is the simple fact that you already have. We forget that. In the rush of new stress, new fear, new challenge, we forget how many times we've been here before. Not exactly here, but in the same emotional storm. Maybe it was years ago. A breakup, a layoff, a move you weren't ready for. A night when the weight felt too much to carry. And yet you carried it. You're still here. That matters. But fear has a strange way of blinding us. It makes us feel like every new fear is the first fear, like we've never survived anything before, like this time will be different. But what if you paused and actually looked back? Not to relive pain, but to remember strength. Early in my life, I was terrified of public speaking. The moment someone said, "You're up next," my chest tightened, my palms sweated, my mind emptied. One night, I had a presentation that I truly believed would break me. I barely slept. I rehearsed every line like my career depended on it. And in my mind, the worst-case scenario kept looping. But here's what actually happened. I spoke. I stumbled a little. The world kept turning. In fact, people listened. And afterward, someone came up and said, "That really helped me." That moment rewired something in me. Not because it was perfect, but because I realized I had faced a fear, and I didn't disappear. Years later, when I thought about starting this channel, all the old fears came back. What if I'm not good enough? What if no one listens? But then I remembered that night, that first fear, and I remembered I've done hard things before. That memory gave me just enough courage to press record. Reflection is not nostalgia. It's a weapon against fear. It reminds you of your track record. Try this. Sit down with a journal and write about a time you were deeply afraid. Really afraid. Then write what actually happened, how you showed up, what you learned, what you proved to yourself. You'll begin to see a pattern. Your fears are usually louder than your reality. And you? You're more resilient than you've ever admitted. We often underestimate our own story. But every fear you've faced is part of your training. Your quiet victories matter. A journal of past fears isn't just a scrapbook. It's a map. It shows you where you've been strong, where you've grown, where you're still standing. Keep it close. When fear shows up again, because it always will, open that book. Say, "I've been scared before, and I'm still here." The Stoics believed in this kind of reflection, not to glorify the past, but to gain perspective, to separate what we fear from what's real, and more importantly, to see who we've become. You are not the same person who once trembled in that room. You're wiser now, more weathered, not perfect, but seasoned. You've seen things. You've survived things. That matters. So the next time fear knocks, don't ask, "Can I handle this?" Ask, "When have I handled worse?" Because chances are, you already have. There's something fear hates more than anything else: clarity. When you know what you stand for, when you know why you're doing what you're doing, fear shrinks. It doesn't disappear, but it loses its voice. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood this deeply. He lived in chaos, wars, betrayals, power struggles, but he wrote with such inner peace. It's hard to believe he wasn't just some monk on a mountain. Why? Because he knew his purpose. And once your purpose is clear, fear becomes background noise. Let me ask you something. What drives you? Not what impresses people, not what pays well. What drives your soul? For me, it took time to find it. Starting this YouTube channel wasn't some grand master plan. It was scary. I didn't know if anyone would care. I didn't know if I was good enough. Every time I hit upload, I felt exposed. But I kept coming back to a simple truth. I wasn't doing this for approval. I was doing this to serve, to share ancient wisdom that changed my life, to give someone, maybe you, what I once needed. And once I remembered that, the fear didn't vanish, but it softened. Purpose does that. When you know why you're acting, you stop obsessing over what people think. You stop needing guarantees. You move with a kind of quiet conviction. Living with purpose doesn't mean having all the answers. It means having an anchor. So what's yours? Have you written it down? Have you said it out loud? Have you let it guide your days? Try this. Write a personal mission statement. Not for school, not for work, for your life. Ask, what values do I live by? What kind of impact do I want to make? What legacy would I be proud to leave behind? Maybe it sounds like this. I want to lead with compassion. I want to help others find strength. I want to speak truth even when it's hard. Once you have it, put it where you will see it. Phone wallpaper, sticky note on the mirror, inside your wallet. Because when fear comes, that statement becomes your compass. The Stoics weren't robots. They felt fear. They lost children. They were betrayed. They were exiled. But they kept moving, not because they were numb, but because they were anchored. Think of people like Gandhi, or Marie Curie, or Martin Luther King Jr. Their purpose didn't erase fear. It just gave them something bigger to serve. Your purpose doesn't have to change the world, but it does have to matter to you. Because without purpose, fear fills the vacuum. And with purpose, fear becomes just another voice in the room, not the one calling the shots. So sit with yourself. No phone, no noise. Ask the deeper questions. And when your purpose whispers, listen, then act. Because a life aligned with purpose is a life where fear still knocks, but never gets to lead. We've walked together through 5 Stoic paths, not just lessons, experiences, not abstract quotes, but practices rooted in real struggle, real emotion, real life. We've looked fear in the face and asked, what's the worst that could happen? We've drawn a clear line between what we control and what we don't. We've leaned into discomfort, not to suffer, but to grow. We've turned back the pages of our own lives to remember how strong we've already been. And we've grounded ourselves in purpose, because when your why is solid, the what-ifs don't win. But now, it's quiet again. You've finished the video. Maybe you're still thinking about that thing in your life, the one fear keeps whispering about. It's okay. That whisper is normal. The question is, will you let it decide your next move? Or will you take one small step anyway? You see, courage doesn't arrive like lightning. It shows up slowly. Each time you act in spite of fear, it grows. Each time you return to your values, it steadies. Each time you remember what matters most, it deepens. Fear doesn't go away, but it can move out of the driver's seat. So I'll ask you, not, what are you afraid of, but something deeper. What could you become if you stopped letting fear lead? Let that question sit with you. And if you found something in this journey that resonated, something that helped you breathe easier or think clearer, leave a comment and share it. Not for me, but because your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this spoke to you, subscribe, not just for more content, but to join a growing space where ancient wisdom meets modern strength. And as we part, let me leave you with this. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. You are not your fear. You are the one who watches it rise and chooses anyway. Until next time, stay grounded, stay clear, and walk with the Stoic spirit.